The Super Mario Galaxy movie is amazing, and that's not even up for debate. But did you notice the mistakes that happen in certain scenes of this production? Mini Bowser. Bowser spent the first half of this movie stuck in a small and weakened form after being forced to eat the mini mushroom at the end of Super Mario Bros. And it was really fun to see him like that, but there's something about it that doesn't make much sense. A basic rule in the Super Mario universe is that you lose your power-up whenever you take damage, and we see this happen several times, both in the first movie and in the second. However, for some unexplained reason, Bowser takes multiple hits and still remains shrunken. He only returned to normal after taking a powerful hit from Mario. But before that, Bowser got his tail pinned, was knocked down, grabbed forcefully, and even slammed against the ground. All of that should have been enough to make him lose his power-up, because any damage is enough, and Mario has lost other power-ups for far less. This is just the first of the 11 incredible mistakes you didn't notice in Super Mario Galaxy movie.
It's time to have fun with us in another Cinewave.
Victory music. It was awesome to see Peach and Mario going through that corridor full of traps created by Bowser Jr., and the cherry on top was seeing that the young villain was watching everything through a game-like screen, similar to the classic Super Mario games themselves. But there's something that makes absolutely no sense here. The music that plays when Mario and Peach reach the end of the level is the victory theme from the games. Sure, you're probably thinking that this makes perfect sense, but we need to remember that the one playing here is Bowser Jr. In this context, Mario and Peach are the enemies who need to be defeated, and the kid failed at that. In other words, the music shouldn't be a victory theme, but a defeat theme, because Bowser Jr. just got his game over. However, Illumination simply ignored that to finish the reference in a cool way, and it's understandable why they did it. Peach's flashback. The flashback where Peach remembers her sister Rosalina is very important, so it's interesting that even a scene like this has a continuity error. Young Peach doesn't have a pacifier in her mouth while she's being pulled into the Mushroom Kingdom, right? So it's strange that, in the scene where Peach appears in the kingdom, she suddenly has a pacifier in her mouth. She wouldn't have had time to put it in. It's something we usually don't notice at first because we're too busy getting emotional over the plot twist, but we can't deny that it's a mistake. But of course, none of this ruins the scene or makes it any less emotional. It's just a small, funny detail that shows that even Illumination's animators make mistakes from time to time. Who doesn't, right? Bowser alive. We already said that the King of the Koopas should have lost his mini mushroom power-up long before taking that hit from Mario, but if that were the only mistake involving mini Bowser, that would be fine. Remember when Peach's castle gets abducted and crashes onto another planet, breaking into pieces? For Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi, escaping the castle alive was a huge challenge. Now, as for mini Bowser, he just walked away completely fine. This is absurd when we remember that the villain was inside a prison shaped like a mini castle, so it would have been impossible for him to get out and jump off with his tiny legs before it collapsed. Bowser should have died, and even if he hadn't, being crushed by a castle should definitely have made him lose the mini mushroom power-up and return to his normal size. So what about you? Do you also think Mario's archenemy is incredible? If so, comment down below #Bowser. Bowser Jr.'s technology. One of the reasons Bowser Jr. is so threatening in this movie, even more threatening than his father in the previous film, is that he has access to several pieces of advanced technology. The magic paintbrush, capable of creating ink monsters, a spaceship, the Mega Legs robot, all of that is cutting-edge tech that Bowser didn't have access to in the first movie. You'd expect the movie to explain how Bowser Jr. got all of this, right? But that's not the case. None of it is explained at any point. It would make sense if the mystery were intentional, so the origin of this technology could be revealed in another movie, and that might still happen. But the real issue is that Mario doesn't even question how Bowser's son managed to get his hands on a massive spaceship. What's worse is that there's actually a hidden clue about who may have given Bowser Jr. the magic paintbrush and all this other tech, and we're about to talk about that now. Kamiks Mug. Kamik, the wizard who works for Bowser, has some really fun scenes, and the first one is when he appears inside the Mega Leg robot, proudly fussing over Bowser Jr. like a proud parent. But if we take our attention away from the humor and focus on the wizard's mug, we'll notice that the symbol on it is the logo of EGAD Industries. In the games, this company is run by Professor EGAD, a crazy scientist responsible for creating extremely powerful technological weapons. If Kamik has a mug that came from that company, that could explain where all of Bowser Jr.'s technology comes from, especially since his magic paintbrush was, in fact, created by Professor EGAD in the game timeline. On top of that, you can spot references to EGAD's equipment in some scenes. On On Bowser Jr.'s spaceship, for example, we see a red chair that is identical to the one EGAD uses in the games, and it's simply impossible not to notice the similarities. So is this just an Easter egg, or is it a hint that the mad scientist is behind everything? However, the fact that the professor doesn't appear in the movie and isn't even mentioned throughout the entire film is very strange. If the equipment really came from EGAD Industries, why didn't anyone bring it up at any point? Kamek didn't even try to hide the symbol on his mug, so it's not like it was meant to be a secret. Umbrella. Peach took part in many incredible action scenes in this movie, and we wouldn't expect anything less, since she was trained to be a hero long before Mario arrived in the Mushroom Kingdom. So much so that she turns her umbrella into a deadly weapon right after receiving it as a gift from Mario. That's really cute and cool, but how can this umbrella be a weapon? We understand that powerful weapons can sometimes take the form of ordinary objects, like Bowser Jr.'s own magic paintbrush. But this umbrella wasn't made with the intention of being a combat item. It's just a gift from Mario and shouldn't be able to protect Peach from attacks like it's Captain America's shield. Unless, I don't know, Mario had some incredibly skilled blacksmith build that umbrella specifically to be used as a battle tool. That's definitely possible, but even then, Mario never said anything like that to the princess. Peach simply started using the gift as a weapon and got lucky that it actually worked really well for that purpose. Could this actually be a subtle hint that Peach can tap into some of her cosmic powers, even when she's not with Rosalina? That would be amazing, but for now, let's assume it's just a small mistake.
Bowser's Armband. No one would ever expect Bowser to surrender himself to save Mario, but that's exactly what happens. And to do that, he had to show off for an alien bee queen. During the display, Bowser's muscles grow so large that one of the spiked accessories on his arm pops off. And that's where a continuity error happens, because in the very next scene, we see the accessory back in place as if it had never come off. This is a very common mistake in animated movies. Something happens to a character and then they're suddenly back to normal right after. When we put ourselves in the animator's shoes, it's easy to understand because they're so busy animating incredible action scenes full of details that small mistakes like this can slip through in other moments. Or are Bowser's accessories actually magical and just snap back into place without him having to do anything? Everyone would love to have clothes that can do that.
Want to keep having fun with us? Then subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Francis. It was hilarious to see the adventure Yoshi had in New York before returning to his original world, and one of the funniest scenes in this secret adventure of the dinosaur is when he simply swallows Francis, the dog who attacked Mario and Luigi in the first movie. And the most absurd part is that Francis's owner didn't even notice that her dog had been swallowed. Even though it's meant to be a comedy scene, it's so absurd that we also have to count it as a mistake. Yoshi always makes a sound when he swallows someone, so it's simply not possible that no one would hear it. Not to mention that the dog was being held by a leash. His owner should have felt the leash being pulled when Francis was swallowed. Either way, it's a good thing that anyone swallowed by Yoshi returns to normal after the egg breaks, right? Francis may have been pretty annoying in the previous movie, but no dog deserves to be swallowed by a dinosaur and then live as an egg for the rest of eternity. Cloud Luigi. The number of power-ups shown in this movie exceeded every expectation, and one of those power-ups is Cloud Luigi, something no one ever imagined seeing in a movie. With this transformation, Luigi can create powerful clouds. However, there's an important weakness. He can only conjure 3 clouds. That's why there are 3 small floating clouds above Luigi's head. They represent this limitation. And this is where the mistake comes in, because the movie completely ignores this rule from the games and has Luigi conjure multiple clouds, one after another, with no limitation at all. And sure, the movie universe is different from the game universe, but if that's the case, why do the 3 floating clouds above Luigi's head still remain part of this transformation's design? They were supposed to act as a counter for how many clouds could be created, but they lost their purpose because of this change. Balloon Yoshi. Another pretty random power-up brought in from the games is Balloon Yoshi, and it also has an error when we compare it to the games since its main limitation was removed. Originally, in the games, Balloon Yoshi is a power-up that only lasts a few seconds before the little dinosaur returns to normal. But guess what? Yoshi stays transformed in this form for quite a while in the movie and only goes back to normal after being hit, just like what happens with most other power-ups. Once again, Illumination ignored a basic rule of a game transformation. The studio is very faithful to most things from Super Mario, but in this case, they ended up overlooking a detail.
The next step is right in front of you. 2 fun-filled videos waiting for your click. Thanks, and see you soon.